we have an ST170 coming in. Very nice to see. Right, we are almost at the Great British Car Museum, where there will be a massive celebration of Fords, Fiesta of Fords, and I believe that the main club hosting it is the XR Owners Club, but I expect to see all manner of Fords there. We're just heading up there, and we are in Matlock, Derby, and I tell you what, along the A38, it's been one heck of a pleasurable drive, I can assure you. I mean, look at this, wow. There have been some nice roads that I've travelled down, so I've seen a couple of Fords already on my way down there, and it should be a really good day. I should point out before we actually get in there that I will not be going in the museum today. That will be on another day. I've got this museum booked out for another day where I can concentrate on what's in the museum, because I've got a feeling that with the amount of Fords that could potentially turn up, yeah, it could be quite a big number, to be honest. So I'm anticipating quite a big number of cars to actually view. So I think it's £5 basically to park and peek, as they call it. So you can park up, you've got access to their cafe, etc. But you can't go in. You can peek, but you can't go in. What an absolute treasure day this is to come down here. Couldn't have asked for a better day. The weather it's just beautiful. You look at this. You do not get this in the Midlands. Well, I have to travel a fair bit out to get something near this kind of scenery. Anyway, let's head in. Oh my goodness me. That is a cracking car. Done. Goodness me. Ooh, we have an Orion next to me. Well, forgive the light because it is extremely bright today, but we have an array of Fords. It goes all the way down there, so I'm quite right that I've only just come here for the meet and not for the museum. That is on a different day, but there is some seriously cool cars here, and let's see what there is. That's better. This is what I remember from my childhood. This, I was pretty young at the time. I fancy one of these Ford Orions. They are wicked cars, and yeah, is it more than a booted Escort? Well, just gorgeous. I love these rear lights. I think they are so sort of similar to what you'd have got on a Mark III Granada with these black inserts between the lenses. I quite like that. It's very much styling cues. Lovely pepper pots. Oh goodness me, we have a Mexico that's just turned up. I'm losing myself already. Just had an Escort XR3i just turning in. We will have a lot of fast Fords today because it is hosted by the XR Owners Club, but this is half of what we've got. I've just been parked over there amongst quite a few people who've just come on their own and they're not affiliated with any other clubs, but I wanted to just show you these three. This is what the British Car Journey has actually put up for display, and we have a P-Reg Escort Mark 6 Cabriolet. Not everybody's taste, but interesting upholstery here, and a correct mechanism. These don't cause many issues. The issue is, if these cars aren't garaged, I've heard where they can actually rust out on the hinges, and then it gets stuck and caught, and it gets a bit fiddly to repair then. But you see this purpley sort of backing to the seats. It's quite a nice touch, really. The alloys are quite standard for a cabriolet. I think this is kind of the standard type. As I say, I'm not a Mark 6 person. Is it something I'd be interested in? Yes, because quite frankly, as much as I say that Mark 1s are 10 times the car that these are, that is based purely off what other people say and how nice my car drives and other cars drive, Mark 1s drive. But I've never owned a Mark 6, and the truth be told, I think I need to, in order to tick that box and see truly the difference between the two. It will be a very disappointing car compared to the Focus in terms of how it drives, but it's still something that I need to itch, and itch well. I mean, we've got the electric window switches down there. Quite common for cars this age to have electric window switches on the center console instead of the doors. I find that an irritating feature on my 45. I like how the handbrake is slightly closer to the driver, not in the middle. Interesting. And we might have an MTX 75. It might be an IB5 at this stage. It depends what engine is in this car. It might be a ZTEC 1.8, or 1.6 ZTEC, which means MTX possibly. 5000 RCD ion, very familiar to everybody, but with the cassette player. Clunky knobs, nice heater knobs, and a nice analog clock instead of a digital. That is a nice feature, and it's something that is very period on a Mark 1 to have a digital clock. As opposed to analog, but I actually think analog clocks date better. I think digital clocks, kind of like digital watches instead of analog like mine, they kind of gone the way of the wind, haven't they, in terms of styling. I love the clocks, very nice indeed. You're probably never going to get to 140 though. Dinky little door mirrors on these, very, very small. Oh, it is a Calypso model. It's the Calypso. Okay, I need to research how many of these are left. The oval front, very much just no. They kind of lost their way a little bit with this car, but it's still a decent car, and it was a decent car back in the day. It's just when the Focus came out, it kind of put this car on the bare bones in terms of what it offered. And then right next to it, we have an F-Reg Mark 4 Escort, and this is kind of what you'd have seen more or less around the late 80s, early 90s. Oh, it's the 1.3. Okay, so this would have the Valencia HSS high compression swirl engine instead of the CVH. Ooh, quite nice. I do think though, and this is the thing with these, I think they look rather notchy at the back. It's kind of a thing. Rover R8s were the same, with that notch at the back on the Rover 200 models. It kind of doesn't flow very nice, and I think that's why they came out with this sort of flown bubble style in the late sort of 90s. A lot of manufacturers started doing the bubble effect to eliminate the boxy design, but very much a box on wheels this. In a late design, wheel trims, etc., and the tyres have all been given some rubber replenishing product. And in here we have quite tastefully upholstered seats. It's probably why those don't get a skin burn while trying to get in and out the seat. It's one of them sort of coarser cloth materials, but ideally this is, by the way, all these cars I suspect are cars that you can actually drive. Because this museum is very well known for allowing you to actually drive your cars. It's actually, they've got quite a few exhibits that are ready to drive on site, and you can take them all the way around the site for, I think, £40, but it depends what car it is. If it's an everyday car, it's kind of like 40. It depends on how prestige the car is and what you want to drive. So it's a unique museum that allows you to drive the exhibits, and I think that's just a winner as a business model. I think this sort of model was being cried out for many years. Lovely red paintwork, matte, so excuse the noise. We have a lot of boy racers at the back side, but you know, by this stage the Escort was starting to look a little bit wet, long in the tooth in the Mark IV form. It was starting to look its age against the competitors, and when you've got much nicer cars like the Rover R8 coming out, newly released, it kind of made Ford seem a bit basic. But then that's what they were. You knew what you got with Fords, and I think it's just so nice to see these examples, because quite a few of these were just banger raced for many years. Ooh, okay. I'm not pretending I know what Ford Escort XR this is. I think this is a 3i. So, yeah, I think that would be a 3i. Oh yes, XR 3i. Now, this is quite rare. On 1992 on a K-Reg, I actually really like Mark V Escort as opposed to the Mark VI. I think the front of it is much nicer. I don't know where they went wrong with that. And it is an XR3i. A little bit less, not as good as the Mark IV XR3i. A bit more heavier, nowhere near as good on the performance. It was just one of those cars that had kind of gone the way of the wind. We have a Mustang coming in, and then we have another XR3i Cabriolet, which I think it's on a private registration plate, but it looks absolutely superb. I am going to be an expert on these cars coming forwards. XR3i Cabriolet, another XR3i, another XR3i Cabriolet, another Cabriolet, and another XR3i. This is a procession, guys, a total procession. Another Cabriolet coming in. Have a Mark V Cabriolet. XR3A Cabriolet again. I like the rear lights as well on the Mark V as opposed to the front. They got that car perfectly right. Focus Mark 1 RS on an 03 plate with the US rear lights. Yep. We have an ST170 coming in. Very nice to see. Mark 2 Mark 2 RS. Excuse me, I was about to say S2, you stupid man. Sounding quite warbly. Yep. Four-wheel drive RS Cosworth. Much more rare in four-wheel drive form. And here we have, judging by the registration and the look at the front, a Mark II Ford Cortina. I actually like the Cortina Mark II compared to the Mark 1. But yeah, I think it was a bit more boxy, a bit more grown up, very much 70s. Lovely mirrors. I love that touch. And the red leather interior. And that steering wheel and dashboard is just so 70s. It's almost like a reddish tinted brown. I think the seats are kind of looking browner as I look at them more. The door handles are just a nice flush fit design. Lovely hubcaps as well. It properly suits the car, and the fact there's no trims on the sides, it looks very Spartan, but actually really nice. It is a Cortina L, so getting up there I suspect. Although I dare say, would an L have come with that sort of interior? I just love the backlights on them, and I think these number plates just look amazing on cars of this age. And the bumper is actually quite slim, very slim indeed. such a stylish dashboard. Apologies for the lighting again, it is extremely sunny. It's a beautiful day out here. Now I'm going to make my way from there and then go across to the back. This place is huge. It goes back that way, which is where they kind of store their cars. So I'm going to work my way over, and we have the Derbyshire RS Owners Club over here, and we start off with a wonderful Mexico with all the cibbies at the front that you could possibly need. Did they come with 4? Ooh, that is absolutely cracking. The wood veneer on the dashboard is such a, I think it's Formica. I'm pretty sure for a car this age it would be Formica, so kind of what you'd see in your typical 1970s living room. But lovely RS steering wheel, and the seats are just, do they not look cool? You've got lovely bucket seats at the front to match. That is a superb job, getting your wheel refurber to do that. I mean, you've got black, you've got the sort of grey, darker grey, and then your silver finish as well. And that would be an expensive job at the wheel refurbishers, but to be done properly, it has to be done. And right next to it, we have an RS Mark 1 with some very aftermarket blingy wheels, of which I suspect these may be OZs, because they've possibly been resprayed in this very deep silver. That's why I didn't recognise them at first, potentially. But we have a completely original interior with the Sparco seats that you get in an RS, so sort of a blue and grey Alcantara combination. And then you've got your start-up button by the gear lever, very modern, very cutting edge. And now every car's got a start-up button instead of an ignition barrel. Well, obviously you have to put the keys in the ignition, but you don't start it with the key, you start it with the button. And obviously you got your blue steering wheel, which is a really nice touch. And you got these vents just here for bigger, greater downforce. Please don't ask me what I'm talking about there, because I don't pretend to know anything about racing and rallying and downforce and that, but still look cool. Lovely lower grille. Front bumpers on a Mark 1 RS are very common to find their way onto a lot of standard, more everyday Mark 1s, put it that way. It's quite a thing, and this car has been all over the place from what I can see. His scuttles look far in better condition than mine. I need to get the scuttles looked at. Yes, well, I'm going to pay particular attention because, you know. And then next to it we have another RS with the original wheels, but have been sprayed up in this sparkly silver colour, which really catches my attention actually. We've got a lovely, he's had a recent rear disc and caliper rebuild, it looks like, if my eyes are not mistaken. And again, just a lovely interior with a blue steering wheel, and it's pretty original in here. He's got a mat to actually cover the dashboard, which is actually a really good idea. I like that, I really like that. If I could get some made for my own car, potentially just without RS on it, that would be pretty neat actually. And under the bonnet, he's opened the bonnet, we have the Duratec RS, which is basically not massively different from the ST170, but there's a few things they added, like a massive turbocharger for a start. And over here we would have a 6-speed gearbox, I suspect, the Getrag. We have got some solid mountings, which probably weren't standard originally, but I suspect that these are quite good actually. They allow for less movement than the originals. They're quite firm, these are, and I've seen them changed around before on Mark 1s. And we have a lovely power steering pump. It's really nice, and obviously the exhaust has been properly wrapped up, and obviously with this aluminium, well, heat protective shrink tape, I should say. You can use it for a while different things, but the main purpose is to deflect heat away from the area you don't want it. And obviously here we've got the thermostat. I will tell you now, I was speaking about this before, this is where the thermostat is on the Zetec. Well, what is essentially a massively uprated Zetec engine. It really is. There's a lot of differences. The conrods are all different. Everything, quite a few things are different from this. And there is a bit that actually differentiates it from the ST170 engine. But we've got the coil pack mounted here and the thermostat here. Now these plastic thermostats are really prone to cracking on these Zetec engines, so it is something to kind of be aware of in this region here. But I'm glad, because you can actually see everything down here, but this is a kind of a particular thing you've got to watch out for. But it's really nice to see. It's still got its original coil pack. If you look at this, it's actually short, the legs are short. That is an original Motorcraft coil pack, and I'm very surprised it's still got it. Maybe it's new old stock, but as far as I'm aware, you can't get the short leg ones now. You can only get the long leg ones. And you've got these big massive turbo pipe, air induction pipe. I mean the air induction goes down here and around it. Oh my god, it's just wow, too much to see. And some heat reflective tape again. Very nice. Ooh, we have an RS Mark 3.533. Yes, it is. It is a 3.5 RS Mark 3.5 with lots of carbon fibre going on, quite interestingly. Wow, he's had a lot of things redone on this engine. I don't pretend that I know. I think this is potentially a Mazda engine. I'm not too certain about these. K&M filter, brilliant. As I say, could you let me know what engine this is, because I have no idea what that is actually. Again, over here we have another Mark 3.5 RS with a very nice beauty cover hiding practically everything, with some interesting cone air filter with a box to go around it. That's how you want a cone filter. It must have its own box to keep out the heat and just allow the air to go through. That's all you want. You don't want to be sucking hot air into the engine, because you're gonna, on a day like today, you're gonna really suffer. Lovely wheels. I'll tell you, I love those calipers. They really do stand out an absolute mile. Another Mark 3.5. Those are very smart alloys, I have to say, and they kind of suit the car and the stance of the car as well. Very nice. Oh, good grief. Okay, now this is a very nice RS Turbo. Wow, with the CVH engine in all its glory, with this lovely unique camshaft cover. As I say, if you don't know much about engines and all that, you know a CVH by the look of the cam cover. And what I love about the CVH is this timing belt cover. Just looks like an add-on. It looks like they kind of designed the engine and then they forgot, oh, we've not designed a cover for the belt. Oh, we'll just rush and just design a box to go over it with a little bit of a rubber seal. That's what that looks like. I do like that actually. In the spec that it does look like a very nice add-on, but I suspect it makes it easier to check the timing belt as well. And I can see the owner has been, it's been rebuilt from scratch with a Motorcraft battery, which I really like actually. I've seen a few of these around and I think that's a cool feature. It's not something I would consider, because on a Mark 1 Focus you got the battery cover that covers it, so there's no real point in doing that on a Mark 1. But cars like this without battery covers, where you can see the battery, that's a really, really nice item to actually add. And everything's accessible, yet you wiper motor and everything, but this is just some huge airtake going on here. Got all your leads. Wow, lovely fog lights at the front on a C-Reg 1985. And we've got these lovely Recaro seats in here with, again, this very nice protective cover over the dashboard, because we don't want the dashboards from cracking, and I know that is a thing on these. Yeah, I just love these rib lights. End of. Pure 80s. And we have an RS Focus Mark II, I believe, as well. Look at this one, registered at TC Harrison. Now that's a good name. That's still going strong to this day. Huge Ford pedigree there with that dealer. And I believe these are the standard alloys as well. They look really, really nice on an RS. Very smart indeed with Recaro seats. And do you know what? Everything is reasonably familiar in this. You've got some extra dials up there. But everything is kind of familiar to anyone who owns a Mark II. There isn't actually a great deal difference in the interior apart from the seats in these, which is kind of understated, despite the fact that we've got this big huge spoiler at the top here, which kind of isn't subtle, which this is an RS. You wouldn't expect it to not be, to be honest. Interesting design at the back here. Very interesting, very eye-catching. So this is someone who has definitely been into some very nice movies. Fast and Furious, of course, and potentially inspired by Fast and Furious by the look of it. But again, there's just some very minor detail differences between an RS and a standard Focus inside, apart from the seats. There are obviously a few styling cues that I may have missed out on, but as I say, very subtle inside, but on the outside, especially this one now, it's not subtle. Is that purple? Wow. This one is for sale, so no, walk away. I ain't got the money anyway, but still, you know, well, I have got the money. I just I need to get a loan. Ooh, now we have the Duratec. Now I believe that this is the 5-cylinder Volvo engine, if I am not mistaken. That is one heck of a big lump, and everything is very accessible, apart from the oil filter, which is kind of there, and yeah, that's not so good. But then again, you could probably take all this off and get better access to that. And this has been in the magazines, definitely. Now forgive me if you are the owners of these cars, that's a really nice air intake. I'm just going to move on because we've got a few. I don't know what colour this is, but it's a cracking colour, and Ford do know how to do colours on fast Fords. It's a pity that these colour schemes kind of have only sort of fizzled out into Ford's lineup in the last 10 years. These sort of colours 20 years ago was just not obtainable. People just didn't like colours like this, apparently. I think that's not true, to be fair. Another one, very nice, and a lonely Ford Fiesta Mark 6. Yes, I can hear people clapping. It is a Zetec S, so it is the sports version, and it is very nice to see one of these here, because it does take out the Ford edge styling that was started by the Mark 1 Focus and then the Mark 3 Mondeo, and then this came out in 2002, and a cracking car it is. Even though I will say the styling at the back makes it look kind of like a van, and that for me, some of you might disagree, but I do think it looks a bit van-like. I think for a time when I wasn't really interested in these, I used to confuse these with Ford Fusions at the back, and that really is yeah, not a good thing. Next door we have an F-Reg Mark II Fiesta L 1.1 with the lovely decals that you can get on these lovely back lights, the lights, the rear lights that everybody would know as a Fiesta if you just took them out and showed people, with some interesting exhaust going on down there. Absolute cracking example, and it's had a few things added, so potentially some XR stuff, yep, and a lovely sunroof, very nice interior, and of course it's had some interesting modifications. What I do like about these is the bonnet moves forwards instead of backwards, which is quite interesting. You do need some protection because you're going to be standing over this way quite a while. And we have, I believe, oh goodness me, this is the Duratec engine. So we're looking at the Mazda L series. This is a Mazda L series engine, potentially out of a Mark II Focus or a Mark III Mondeo. And these engines are really good, apart from the odd rocker cover leak and oil through the piston rings when they get old. These are very good engines and I highly rate them, and I'm not surprised somebody has added some throttle body things. Can somebody tell me what they are? I'm not sure what they are. But this is extremely tidy. Heat wrap material over the exhaust. It's all well and good, and I think most of the running gear is actually around the sides, but the engine has been changed significantly. So this is a bit of a sleeper. Now this is, I believe, a Ford Racing Puma. It certainly is, and it has got a magnificent story to tell. It is number 35 of 500 produced. Unbelievable. I think there's less than a few hundred that exist, probably about 300-ish. But this is a cracking car. Ford Puma in any form is just amazing. And I've seen some of these at the NEC, and oh my goodness me, that velvety material on the seats, that's just quality, isn't it? And we have the usual sort of Ford Fiesta style Mark IV dashboard, because it is a Fiesta Mark IV underneath essentially. But what a cracking car that is. The owner of this fantastic Ford Racing Puma, who bought it in 2017, Derek, has just opened the bonnet, and we can see the wonderful Zetec S engine, which is very familiar to most of you on my channel. It is a Ford Sigma engine, the 1.7 litre, and this produces quite a bit more than the standard 1.6. And I will say now, for many years, this aluminium intake manifold, which would be plastic on the Fiestas and Focus, they were kind of taken away and stolen. A lot of these engines got broken for these aluminium intake manifolds, and it is a simple conversion. They do fit the 1.6 litre models quite easily, and there has been some notable performance differences with these engines, but this is a cracking engine. These were made specifically for this engine. I mean, this is number 35, which is, this is such a nice touch. It's untrue with the intake plenum as it is, and obviously it has the VCT, which is kind of Ford's own interpretation of the Honda VTEC, which came out quite a few years before. And Ford were kind of messing around with particular variable camshaft timing solutions to up in the power of just a standard engine. Later on, obviously, they put the TI VCT version upgrade to the Sigma far later on in 2007, 2008, but this was very much a technology in its early gestation. Ford were only kind of just started out with this technology and seeing potentially its worth with mainstream production engines, this being a very limited number of engines indeed, even though I will say that this engine was, this VCT was fitted to a couple of other Fords at the time. It was very much a niche product, but wonderful to see such a lovely engine bay, something very familiar to most Fiesta owners. And it is actually nice to see the cross member has not scabbed up. This car, by the way, has had a respray. Probably in the owner's, in Derek's kind of opinion, it wasn't the best of resprays, but then it's a respray kind of very similar to what you would have expected from the factory, which I think is such an original thing. I think it's something to behold, to be honest. So yeah, honestly, this is just cracking. And we have another Mark II Fiesta on another F-Reg, and this dealership sticker, wow, okay, has that been added? It looks relatively new, sort of new old, so I quite like that actually. I think that's a really nice touch. Dealership stickers just finish them off. It's got this weird arrangement for the actual the heated rear window, where it sort of stops going straight, and then these two lines kind of go down and then that way. I don't know why, because it kind of leaves a space here not heated up by anything, and here as well. It's just something I've noticed on these a few times. And we've got some aftermarket wheels, quite nice. And yep, try not to burn cloth seats. No, burn your skin, I should say. Very nice indeed, and lovely quarter light. And it's been debadged at the front. And we have another RS Fiesta. It's the 1.1 gear. Very nice indeed. And you'd have got more plush seats with the kind of velour upholstery that you would normally get on a gear. And wow, yeah, this is rather nice. And obviously you get this really nice gear badge on the side there. I really like that nice touch. And you get these lovely wheel trims. You didn't get any alloys at this stage. We're still like in the 80s, 90s, where even the top specs only got trims. Yeah, I like that. I like that. And oh, Bristol Street Motors in Cheltenham. I approve, sir. Very nice sticker indeed, with a lovely sunroof.